Guys, the balance patch is live and it is absolutely crazy. Now, this is kind of a first impression. I did already take a quick glance overall to just see what heroes are on there. I already saw so many people messaging me, but there are some things I haven't quite checked out fully just yet. So it will still be a first impression, but I don't even want to do a long intro, guys. Let's just straight up get into it already. Let's take a look here, guys, for the 4/13 Thursday balance adjustment preview. So that'll be happening on April 13th. I was super pleasantly surprised on both the just the character selection that they chose. A lot of stuff right here, guys, like Ilinov, that I know a lot of people have been waiting on. Last Rider Krau, I think, as well. Ken for sure. Lilias. And then these artifacts. I didn't even know, like, I wasn't super excited about the artifacts, but I heard some things about this Ancient Dragon's Legacy. Just hold tight if you haven't already spoiled yourself. We'll get to it in just a minute. I think this is going to be absolutely crazy. Changes so much stuff in the game in terms of, like, counterplay text and things like that. And one quick note, guys. It kind of sucks because I have a guide coming out on the Amazon channel talking about, like, all the best characters you can pull from this new side story summons. A lot of them, like Lilias. I think I even mentioned Ken, Ilinov, Tywin for sure. A lot of stuff I mentioned is now out of date because these are actually going to be insane. So I might do a quick text edit, but unfortunately that video is already going live. So if you can, check it out, but I'll try to update it via text in post editing. But yeah, without further ado, guys, let's break it down. Let's get into it. Alrighty, starting from the top, we have Last Rider Krau. Not something I'm unsurprised to see. I think he did need some love. I'm actually surprised that, like, Blood Moon Haste wasn't on here, but maybe they're still figuring out what they want to do with him. Regardless, let's take a look here, boys, as Last Rider Krau is actually fitting really well into the meta even before this change because of units like Tywin. He was good against units like Archmeru. So let's see now what they're adding for him. So in red, the cooldown by 1 turn. And then in the green here, after being attacked, decreases skill cooldowns of the caster by 1 turn. So anytime he gets hit, he decreases skill cooldowns of the caster by 1 turn. That seems already insane. And then an additional 1 turn, like he used to do, as long as it's AoE. So he always resets a skill by 1 turn and then an additional 1 turn if it's AoE. And there was already some people running things like Candlestick. So I think this could go absolutely insane. And then on top of that, the barrier strength is increased as well, which is always just a nice bonus. I don't imagine it's gonna be too much, otherwise he'll be busted. But any extra, you know, barrier health is very nice, very welcome. So let's see, the mobile weapon Zig Free, the skill 3, right, where he does the bike. Now it'll have some speed scaling, but guys, notice here they did increase the cooldown from 6 turns to 7, which overall is still a net positive because you expect to be Krau getting hit unless you're fighting like an all single target team. So this should pay itself off definitely in a match, even though they're increasing the skill cooldown by 1 turn. And on top of that, I think players are going to want to build him even faster now to get that early S3, start getting those cooldowns, and now it's going to have some speed scale. Also, getting the immunity up before your opponent goes is very important too. And then having that speed scaling, just extra damage on top of that, extra barrier strength. This is actually a ton of buffs, guys, for Last Rider Krau. Yeah, that's the same thing here. Okay, so I don't think I need to read the explanation. It's pretty simple what they're doing here. They're kind of just taking his already good kit and just making it way, way better in all areas. Even this part, guys, where they increase the cooldown, I think Last Rider Krau is going to be an absolute monster. Very needed to fight the recently buffed Ambitious Tywin and other AoE units. He's going to be really, really fun to use. I'm going to get mine on some premium gear. All right, guys, next up we have Closer Charles, a unit that I don't even own this guy yet, but I fought him a million times, so I'm pretty familiar with his kit. They're not changing too much here other than the skill cannot trigger a counterattack, which is definitely good, right, guys? And I mean, it sucks for all the Banshee players like myself, but I do think this is needed in his kit to keep up with the competitiveness, to stay in the meta, because every unit now that is relevant usually has something like this, so they don't get blown up by any counters, outbursts, whatever. So that's nice, I guess. Closer Charles, I think, still has some issues, but this is going to definitely make him more viable. So all the Closer Charles aggro players, I'm sure they're, yeah, at least somewhat happy with that. Next up, guys, we have Ken, who... man, this guy has main character energy, but he's kind of been on the sidelines for a long time. He's an actual PvE monster, though, guys, especially in areas like Guild Inheritance. But you just don't really see him outside of there, outside of some niche PvP or PvE scenarios, excuse me. So they're changing his Celestial Kick right now to acquire 40 Fighting Spirit. So it just always gets 40 Fighting Spirit instead of only on defeating an enemy. That seems very strong. Starts the battle with 50 Fighting Spirit on the left-hand side here and gains 5 Fighting Spirit when attacked. And now he's just going to start the first battle with 40 Fighting Spirit. Okay. Let me see here, guys. So he's getting 40 fighting spirit just straight out of the celestial kick, but this is actually changing how much he gets. He gets 10 less and doesn't get that whenever he's attacked gains more. So let's see. I actually want to see their explanation here a little bit, because these buffs don't seem like they're going to change too much in his overall design. He can only acquire fighting spirit by being attacked or defeating an enemy. To address this, he will no longer gain fighting spirit when attacked, but instead will always gain it when. So let's okay. Okay, so they're really just changing, so he's gonna feel a little bit like that. This is a lot of fighting spirit to gain after celestial kick, but him losing it after any time he gets hit, 10 overall as well. He's not. I don't know, guys. I don't think this is gonna make Ken like seen in PvP, but it might make him feel a little bit more smooth in the areas that he's used in, like I mentioned in niche PvE scenarios. But I feel like they should have gave him a little more love, because he's kind of not seen too often. But hey, I guess any buff is okay. Next up, guys, and I saw a little bit of... Sorry, I spoiled myself. I read ahead a little bit. Lilias is crazy. Let's look at this together. She's going to be getting just a straight-up 50% crit chance increase, which is huge for stats, right, guys? Just gearing. Since Lilias is a unit that can do a lot of different stuff, I think getting just free 50% crit is absolutely nuts. It's going to be very, very nice, depending on where you want to go with her kit, overall stats. And then she's getting a extra turn soul burn, which could be interesting. That's far enough, which was the S2, I believe, before. Yeah, before it was just like it was kind of just like a Conquer Lilias S2. I mean, she was first, obviously, but yeah, they do the same thing, very similar. But now look at this, guys. After an enemy uses a non-attack skill, so think of units like Politis, like Celine, dispels 1 debuff from the caster. So Lilias will dispel 1 debuff and then activate suppression against the caster, which can only activate every 2 turns, but it'll provoke the target for 1 turn and grants a berry to the caster for 2 turns. That's actually crazy, guys. There's so much nuance to this. Like how this is gonna end up like playing out is really, really crazy. But any unit, right, boys, that uses non-attack skills, and I know we know a lot of them, very annoying ones. Think of units like Lua. Maybe like on mid. Just be careful, guys, because I think you still need effectiveness here. I don't think, like, yeah, you're still gonna. So against a unit like on mid that sometimes has effectiveness, you may need to build your Lilias with some. We'll see. But against like Conquer Lilias, Lua, that usually don't have very much ER, this is gonna be an automatic provoke, and so they can't lead in their follow-up skills. That's kind of crazy. And then barrier strength decreased. Okay, so they're actually lowering the barrier health. Who cares? This part is absolutely crazy, so I'm fine with that. Oh, the barrier strength is increased, but they're going to give them skill enhancement, since this is now like a passive ability, I believe, right? Yeah, it looks like a passive now. You don't actually activate anything. It's automatic. Now they're going to get the barrier strength through the mola. So it should be either it comes out the same or a net positive, hopefully. So that's kind of cool. Her skill 3 now will also get the 50% crit. So both S1 and S3, guys. So effectively, Lilias just has 50% bonus crit. All of her skills have it. Skill 1, Skill 3, S2 is now passive, and then damage dealt increased as well. That's awesome, guys. That means you can build her with some effectiveness. You can build her tanky. Maybe you can even build her with ER as a cleanser and still have like a little bit of damage on top of that. And if you want to go like the full bruiser, like giga damage build, remember she has soul burn as well, so she can pump out 2 S1s. And her own damage will be good as well. So her damage is good. That's like 4 hits because she's bringing someone along with her twice. That's kind of crazy. This is a lot of buffs for Lilias, a unit that I mentioned on my other video that, you know, she used to be the queen of like everything. She was a good all-rounder that could do so much for her team. I like to see her return to glory, especially because she's been in the shadow of Conquer Lilias. So this is very nice, guys. And trust me, when we look at the other artifacts, this skill 2 is like absolutely... This is a game changer in terms of like how people have to adapt, especially in areas like RTA, Guild Wars, defense, things like that. Okay, so check that out. We'll talk more about it soon at the end, I think. Next up, guys, we have Ilinov here, who I know we were all asking this. I love Ilinov. I think she's one of the best looking units, best design units in the game. She's just kind of been underwhelming, even after buffs, even after the EE. I think she only got like slight buffs. But anyways, skill 1 Rush now has damage dealt increased. All right, always nice. Punish, which is like the skill 1 when it procs. Right, that 50% chance to use Punish. Now it will deal additional damage equivalent to 50% of injuries inflicted on the target. Wow. Okay, so it already dealt injuries, guys, and now it'll deal additional damage depending on how much injuries are already on there. Kind of like Death Dealer Ray, and then Soul Burn increases damage dealt. Okay. Before it was like skill cooldown decreased, and now Repel, the skill 3, just inflicts injuries straight off the bat, and the severity of injuries increases proportional to damage dealt. Injuries decrease max health of the target by up to 20% every time the skill is used. Damage dealt is increased. So both skill 1 and skill 3 got damage dealt increased. Skill 2, the punish, when it procs or when you just cast it, will have its own like explosion effect, kind of like Ray, I believe. Let me know if I'm correct on that, guys. And then yeah, overall just damage, like she's going to be insane, guys. If you stack injury set on top of that, I think combined with Death Dealer Ray, she's going to be crazy. I think just standalone too, maybe she'll be able to kind of do what Alencia does. Maybe not as much front loaded since Alencia has that, you know, the Mind's Eye with the defense break. It's kind of like she can 50% max injury like Apoc Ravi off the rip. But maybe I think Ilinov is going to be close to that. So the Fire Injury Bruiser. This is very promising. I do think though, I think Ilinov though, like the skill 1 still feels very, very underwhelming to me. It did get its damage dealt increased, but when it doesn't proc, Ilinov feels really bad. But I'm excited to see where they go with this. I'm going to test her for sure. I'm very, very happy that they did a lot of buffs for her, so don't get me wrong when I say that skill 1 still feels underwhelming. I think she's going to be very good. All right, next up, guys, Tywin. Now this is one where he's been just terrible, right? He's been, ever since Bazaar Tywin, like year 1, he's just been seen nowhere in the game after he fell out of the meta. But let's see what they're changing. So Sword Storm, which I believe this skill 1 now has increased effect chance to 100% on the soul burn. Okay, the Tactical Command, where before it grants attack and crit chance to the caster and ally for 2 turns. This was a castable skill, right? Now it's like a passive. Immune to debuffs which prevent movement, which sounds kind of weird, right, guys? But if you look down here, debuffs which prevent movement is stun and sleep. So they're essentially just saying he's immune to stun and sleep. And on top of that, when the ally in the back row has a debuff which prevents movement, so stun and sleep, after being attacked, he'll activate Commanding Shout on the target. Can be activated once every 2 turns. Kind of like Ambitious Tywin and sort of like removing debuffs, but it'll be specifically versus stun and sleep. And dispels, the Commanding Shout will now dispel all debuffs from the ally and grants immunity for 2 turns. Wow, that's crazy. Very, very powerful. S2 they're just throwing onto here. And let's see here. Skill enhances -1 turn cooldown. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. It's still gonna be. Is this still gonna be a castable skill? The immune to debuffs, though. No, I feel like this is kind of like an automatic ability, but the skill enhancements, the -1 turn cooldown, is gonna be like how long it can activate again. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they mean on that part. Let me know, guys, if you understand this a little better than I do. But either way, this is kind of a crazy ability. The immune to stun and sleep, and then protecting the ally in the back row. And Tywin's going to be a very nice kind of like counter, like a knight that you bring against certain comps, especially in like Guild Wars, maybe in RTA, things like that. Going to be very powerful. Now the skill 3 here, all out attack, we get more souls. And now we also get increased defense for all allies, which is very, very powerful. Before it was just for the caster, I believe, right? Yeah, okay, guys. Tywin seems very, very insane. Tywin skill enhancement's effect for a second skill will be modified, and the soul burn effect. Yeah, I'm not sure still what they mean by these the -1 turn cooldowns on the skill 2. That seems like it's going to be a castable ability. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, so excuse me. So it's just a Commanding Shout, which is just a dispel. I was thinking it's like an automatic proc ability. Although I guess it does as well. Actually, I'm not sure, boys. Let me know what y'all think about the -1 turn cooldowns here. No, that seems like it's going to be activated. It's like an automatic activation whenever something's debuffed. But anyways, these are absolutely crazy. I'll double check after this. Remember, this is my first time looking at this stuff, so I'll clarify what that means exactly. But either way, he's going to be a crazy tech unit, of a more versatile knight. I'm very, very excited to see that. And his exclusive equipments are getting changed as well. Increase combat readiness of the ally in the back row by 10% when using Sword Storm, the skill 1, and then increases Commanding Shout's barrier strength by 20%. Okay, kind of cool. All right, guys, let's see. Up next, we have Christy, who, if you weren't aware, she's like the 3-star Dragon Knight that she gives like 50% of her total effect resist for a back row unit. So a lot of people will stack like a crazy amount of effect resist on her, and that means your DPS carry or whatever you're putting in the back will be effectively, you know, should be immune to debuffs for the most part. But instead of, she's going to lose her counterattack ability, which was very mediocre. Now she's going to get a 25% combat readiness, I guess, after the molas for both her and the back row unit every time she's attacked, as long as there's no debuff. Okay, I think that's much better. Not a crazy change overall, but I do think this might make players that used Christy already, maybe that'll make her feel a little bit nicer, as 25% for each unit is pretty big. So that's kind of nice. We expect this change to boost her overall effectiveness. Okay, cool. Now, last but not least, guys, we have the artifacts. Now, this part is crazy. So let's go with the simple one first. Crown of Glory. I shouldn't say simple. I didn't even read this one yet. But instead of increase defense, right? Crown of Glory used to increase defense and remove souls whenever the caster suffered an attack. Now it's going to be when an ally suffers an attack that targets all allies. Okay. Decreases damage suffered by 10 to 20%. Wow, that's kind of interesting. And removes 5 souls from the enemy. So it's maintaining that soul removal. And when more than one damage reduction effect is granted, only the strongest effect is applied. Okay. And soul removal can only be activated once per skill. Okay, okay. So now we have like an anti-AoE, right? This is a night artifact. That is going to be whenever you're fighting, you know, yeah, all AoE abilities, and you're still going to remove 10 souls. So 20% decreased damage suffered. And this clause is always present, guys. It means you just can't stack more than one damage reduction effect. So no proof of valor will stack with this, etc. But you can stack things like damage share with this. Always remember that. So this is kind of interesting. Maybe more of a like arena or guild wars kind of artifact you can slap on when you know you're going to be fighting AoE. Because in RTA, this might be a little bit hard to justify on a night when sometimes you're going to be fighting a lot of single target, not always all AoE, things like that. But this is much better than it used to be for sure. Now, guys, this one is crazy. This one's going to change so much in combination with Lilias, just in general. But let's see here, guys. Ancient Dragon's Legacy, which I believe was Mort's artifact, correct? It used to increase crit chance by 15%. And now, after the caster uses a non-attack skill, decreases skill cooldown of all allies by 1 turn. And has a 50% to 100%. Okay, so it keeps the crit damage. But look at this, guys. Skill cooldown reduction effect only be activated once. But the thing that's important is it decreases skill cooldown of all allies by 1 turn. So units that push you back, like Lua. I think a lot of people have been asking for a Lua counter. Now we can slap this on Lilias. Let's see. It needs to be a knight that can use some non-attack skills here. But yeah, Lilias is the one that comes to mind from her new buffs, right, guys? Because whenever they use a non-attack skill, Lilias will activate her non-attack skill. And then that'll decrease the skill cooldown that Lua's already applying. So we already have one absolute tech right there to combat units like Lua. And then Lilias alone is, like we keep mentioning, is going to be insane also. So let me see here if they mentioned, what do they say here? Equipping our artifact right here, use non-attack skills can reduce the skill cooldown of all allies. Remember, guys, this is only once per game, but that's usually enough, right? That's enough to turn the tides. Okay. Wow. All right, guys, I think we'll wrap it up there. I'm still wrapping my mind around all this. Let me know what y'all know about the Tywin skill 2, the skill cooldown thing. But anyways, this is so crazy, guys. I think Smilegate knocked it out of the park here, answering a lot of answers. I know a lot of people were saying like speed has been king and a lot of like openers and cleaves is so powerful. Now we're getting some options for slower play, counter play, things like that. I do think actually though Tanky and turn 2 play was already in a pretty good spot overall, but it needed a lot of gear, a lot of knowledge. This is going to help people a lot just deal with those problem units that have been feeling so oppressive. So I'm really happy with what Smilegate did here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know what y'all think, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out, guys.